Welcome back to another episode of What About Dat? My name is Adair, and with the help of my friend Jen, we'll be going over Supergirl Season 2, Episode 14, Homecoming. So, sit back, relax, and ask yourself, what about Dat? Okay, let's go ahead and give the synopsis of this episode. Once again, it's Episode 214, Homecoming. When Jeremiah Danvers, guest star Dean Cain, is rescued from Katniss, Alex, played by Kyla Lee, and Kara, played by Melissa Benoist, are thrilled to have their father back. The Danvers arrange a family dinner to celebrate, but things go awry when a suspicious Mon-El, played by Chris Woods, starts to question Jeremiah about his sudden return. Okie dokie, so last we all spoke, I was talking about the recap for the promo videos and everything for 214. And I had made some kind of predictions or things that I thought might happen. And ironically, not really ironically, they just completely happened. I said something like Alex and Kara are going to be tested in their relationship, and it's that whole stepsister adopted thing is going to kind of rear its head, which I think it totally kind of started on Alex's side this episode. I said that Mon-El was going to have an issue communicating danger because he's him. Nobody died in this episode, so I don't know what that was about. Maybe they're just saying people have been talking about, like, the end of the season, someone's going to die, which, still plausible. Nobody saw Jimmy, and I don't think really many people missed Jimmy, which is kind of a bummer. And, what about that? Tell me what you got for this episode, Jen.
So we open the episode, and there's some magical music. There's lighting. It's soft lighting, and we have a topless Mon-El in bed.
Woo woo!
It's the third time we've seen him topless.
Yes.
I've been counting. Every time I see him topless, take a shot. His first line is arguably the most cheesy thing in the episode. Mm-hmm. He's like, by himself in bed. Kara's gone. He was like, was I that bad? Or was I that good?
I'm just waiting for, like, some cheesy bro music to play, like, pew,
I'm
pew,
like,
pew.
who judges themselves like that? And then we have, there's a morning show, and we find out that Kara's stopped 5 robberies, exploding tankard, and and she's delivered a bunch of puppies, a litter of puppies.
What?
And she's called a feminist hero. And then we see Kara, and she shows up, and she does a quick change from Supergirl into Kara. She brings Mon-El flowers. How dashing.
Hey, a little dick will make your day.
And coffee. And there's like a reversal of roles in which she is kind of like, I guess, taking on the masculine in the relationship. And, I feel like basically I wanted to talk about was that this episode really started out Mon-El centric. We started out in his POV. And so we get to hear what he wants, And one of the first things he says to Kara is he tells her, since you've got your little heroing out of the way, can we just stay here? What did you think of that line? How does that affect you? We just talked about it.
Honestly, they want us to like this guy. They want us to root for him. But when you say some just bullshit like that, I don't understand. Now that you've gotten your superheroing out of the way, we can stay in bed. Like, I'd rather save 1,000 cats than sleep next to you.
A litter of puppies.
And deliver puppies. Like, who would... it just...
I want to reference that because literally a beat before, you had the morning show woman, saying, oh, Supergirl, a feminist hero. But when you have a character like Mon-El being like, hey, honey, now that you're done with your little superheroing, sounds like a 1950s husband.
When she can just pummel him into the ground. Like,
right.
Without even trying. Like, he has to warm up just for them to spar. Like...
Since this is a Mon-El-centric episode, let's talk about Mon-El. Let's look at
the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
I know people over the nets and the interwebs are talking about Mon-El, whether it be like, oh, I don't ship it. We are not talking about Mon-El, the character, just solely on the ridiculousness of this relationship they have going on. As a character, we think the writers have failed him, 100%. He could be a good character. He's going to probably be Valor. He's probably going to be in...
Explain who Valor is.
Valor is another kind of space group, kind of Justice League-y feeling. Wynn's girlfriend, Lyra, is supposed to also be in this group eventually. So that's... I know people wanted him to be Superboy and all this other stuff, but that's where he's going to end up being. The writers have given us absolutely nothing to really like this guy, other than the fact that he likes Kara. We actually... It's kind of like...
They've given us a shirtless Monel 3 times.
Okay, I won't lie. They've given us a shirtless Monel. They've given us the, hey, Debbie. That was a good line. Giving blonde actress in the back some credit. So mazel tov. And that's about, but like, other than that, it's infuriating. So he's going to probably go off and be this superhero once he gets his, I don't know, diploma or,
Superhero
I don't know, his pilot training bag.
That was a question I had throughout this episode, and it's one that I've had in prior episodes. But really, then after Kara and Manal, they're kissing, she's like, we got to be at the DEO in 20 minutes. I'm like, I get why Kara has to be at the DEO, but why? What does Monal, what is his job at the DEO? Like, I ask this all the time.
And I get it.
You know, like, he doesn't have a lot of security clearance. Is he a superhero? Isn't he a superhero? What does he know? And what is he allowed to do? And I feel like it's so gray that sometimes when I see him in scenes with DEO, I'm like, why are you here, sir? I feel like it's very, very unclear. And because his role is so unclear in his own workspace, I feel like every time I see him referencing something, I'm like, whoa, would he really know that? Or would he know that? So I just feel like, that's a very gray area. And back to this idea that this episode was, it starts off in Monal's POV, so I think it's going to be a Monal-centric story.
Point of view, for those of you.
Point of view, PO, I said the wrong thing. But anyway, so I think it's going to be a Monal-centric story, but about halfway through maybe a third through the episode, when Jeremiah shows up, and Kara, Jeremiah, and Alex all kind of hug in the DEO and have this reunion, that POV really switches, and the question I had for this whole episode, the question I have for you, and for you, Adair, if you want to speak to it, is, should this have been a Monal-centric story? Because I felt like the emotional base of this story was really Alex, and I felt like anytime she was on stage, anytime she was in a scene, there was so much meaty, emotional stuff, but none of it got developed because we spent so much time in this early cold open between Monel and Kara.
I think that...
Was it really his story to tell, is what I'm asking.
No, I get it. I think that this should have been a 2-part episode. I think that the beginning should have set up Monel. It should have set up Kara being excited that they're going to go get, maybe the heat signature, or even when he does come back, there's that moment of Eliza seeing him, and as you had said earlier, before we were filming, maybe Eliza even getting a little suspect of Jeremiah before, because,
right.
We noticed that she cut him off real quick, and it's like, well, is she dating somebody? What's the deal? Maybe she had an inkling, maybe something wasn't sitting right with her, after 14 years. She was married to him, and they had a child, Maybe there was something disconnected. So I think that this episode should have probably been in 2 sections.
It felt very discombobulated.
Because the thing is, for me, I think that it would have been cooler into... You could have the fun, the family, really built that up, really built that, awesomeness up, and built that together. And then towards the end of that episode, start having maybe Alex being like, Kara, wait, it's either us or your boyfriend, that kind of feel. Mm-hmm. Or even Eliza maybe being a little weary about it. And then when we got into the second half, that's when we started seeing, like, the betrayal and the crossover and all the other stuff. And that's when a lot more action happened. And that's when maybe Jeremiah shows us a little bit more, and Manhunter shows us a little bit more, and, even Alex more upset because they didn't show. Everybody on the internet's like, they should have apologized to Monel, because he was right. Yes. Yeah, he was right the one time out of the entire season.
Well, you said it. You called it. You knew that you actually had a really articulate way last week about talking about how they were going to use Monel. He was going to be the suspect one.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how they used him in this episode. I felt like from the very beginning, it felt like 2 episodes, and it felt like 2 openings. You have the scene with Monel and Kat, and it's like this post-coital moment. They just fucked, and they're happy. And then you have this giant explosion, And this was one of my favorite scenes in the whole episode, was the car chase scene right after the Monel scene, where you have, Supergirl, the Cadmus has been pinged on the radar, and Supergirl rushes to go confront them, and she's the first one on the scene, and Manhunter, he's right there next to her. I love Manhunter. He phases
through the cars, he does
the camera had a great shot, a slow motion shot of explosions and the car lifting through the air.
Can we just talk about, I just want to say to the stunt team, I absolutely love when they do practical effects, which means they're not CGI, they are actual cars flipping on a tarmac somewhere in Canada, which I think is amazing.
That looks amazing.
I miss that. I miss Manhunter and Supergirl doing superhero shit.
Right.
Like, what about that? Like, can we please?
That's where I felt like
back.
that. If you would cut the whole Monel opening, you would have an episode that would be POV Kara centric, and it would tell a story of her discovering her father through my sense of importance. What should have been important and highlighted, and it really took away the slow open of Kara bringing all the coffee and everything, and having this moment before she goes to work from, in my opinion, Alex. I feel like she was robbed, and also the sister confrontation that they teased was robbed. And I feel like this is a problem this show has. In their promos, they will show you something that you're really excited for,
and they give you something
entirely different.
Which is like, then what we want to see this story, but you're giving us some bullshit that nobody asked for.
You're giving us the story through Monel, and I asked, is that really the appropriate character for it?
I would have loved to seen, really, yes, from this whole thing from Kara's point of view. Kara is the adopted, not even the stepdaughter. She is the adopted daughter, okay? She's had her family. She knows her mom and dad, and she's accepting the Danvers into the house. Obviously, she 100% considers Alex her sister, because she didn't have any sisters, or at least,
right.
I don't believe she had sisters. I could be wrong. I think she had a brother. But anyways, that idea of that family would have been nice to see from Kara's point of view. Like, super excited she was for it. I wanted to see how her hopes for Alex were going to be. But instead, we got her fighting with her boyfriend.
We got her insecurity, because it wasn't even her boyfriend. She didn't want to tell the DEO or anybody at work about their relationship. She wanted this all in D-low. And then cut to a scene where Monel just announces it to the floor. She's my girlfriend, be jealous.
Which I guess they thought was funny and cute.
I thought it was funny, but I also thought, like, what an asshole.
Well, I think that's now I think they're just purposely making him an asshole, so there's like, well, he's a dick. And I'm like, I'm normally kind of behind Monel's silly antics, because I'm like, I get it. I guess that's what they're going for, but like, for some reason, for me, I was not feeling it this time around.
Right.
I was like, really? Like, dude, she legitimately just said, and you know what it was?
He doesn't respect her boundaries.
Well, it was not just that. It's that this time she actually gave emotional response and experience to why she doesn't want to go public. It wasn't like, I'm just not ready, or no, she goes, well, people like to pick apart my relationships, and I want to keep this to ourselves for now, so that we can just bake and bask in the glow and really be excited without sharing you with everybody else. And then he was like, fuck your opinions. Hey, everybody, we're dating.
He threw it away.
And it was like, that really that actually really hurt my feelings. Like,
it's humiliating too. The way he does it, and then
because nobody was asking, nobody was like, the audience wasn't asking, like nobody
was ready to hear it. We weren't ready to hear it professed to the world, and that really that we're still in that POV of Monel at that point.
Yep.
All the way up until Kara discovers your father and he walks into that room. So it's like I said, you have 2 episodes in one. They both want to do 2 different things and can go into 2 different directions. They both don't do it well.
Okay, now,
meshing.
What do you think about
Dean Cain?
I
actually thought I watched all of Lois and Clark as a child. I was a huge fan, and I actually thought his portrayal of Jeremiah, I thought he was a better actor now than he was in the 90s. Dean Cain arriving in the DEO is really where we set off into the path of the storyline itself, which is he's been discovered after 14 years.
Conveniently. By the way. Super conveniently.
Yeah. And there's a nuclear bomb about to be dropped
that
by
only
Cadmus.
he is mentioned.
Can I just say, after he says this, there's a quick cut to scene where we have Brenda Strong and Henry Henshaw, and he's like literally putting the battery in the bomb. Like, you don't need to prove that to me. I know Lillian Luther, when she said bomb, I'm not going to question it. I think it's built. That was like a wasted time sequence.
He was like, you got that bomb? Let me get this AA. Nailed it.
I was just like, trust me, guys. I believe Lillian Luther has a bomb.
Like,
you don't need to show me that. That was another like little 5 seconds you could have used towards the development of the Alex emotional storyline.
Well, you know what's funny? Because they literally showed the bomb like one time, okay? Just to be like, guys, we got a bomb, just in case you were wondering. Pleased with, at the end of the episode where they show that big-ass ship that they're going to ship all the aliens on, I would have loved to see in the background somebody wheeling the bomb onto the ship. Now, that would have been like, there's the fucking bomb.
The bomb survived the episode.
That's where the bomb was the whole time. I would have just preferred the bomb to have been like shoveled on the back of the ship. I'd be like, oh damn, she's not crazy.
Shit is literally being shoveled.
Ships are getting shoveled.
I feel like I've seen Lillian Luther with a bomb in the past. I don't question it. She's so
she knows how to get
at that. Yeah. She's very good at what she does, which is terrifying people. Then the first thing that happens after Jeremiah shows up, like literally oh my god, literally the first thing that happens is that Monel pulls Kara away, and they have like this scene where Monel's like, "Don't you think it's convenient?" And that's where he starts to really suspect Jeremiah's from the very beginning's motives. You know,
I wish
your thoughts on that.
I just wish that.
We just watched that scene.
I know. I wish Jeremiah would have done something warrant suspicion. I mean, I get the obvious suspicion of you've been gone for 14 years with their deadliest enemy, and all of a sudden, convenience, we found you. And I actually did really appreciate the writing where he goes, no, they were literally waving their hands in the air like they just don't care, because that's what they were doing. They're like, by the way, here's a bomb. Come find your dad. We're going to put him in the truck you can't see through. That was actually really funny to me.
That was funny.
I'm like, yeah, convenience, because I think that there should have been something a little bit more seedy about Jeremiah, maybe, like, maybe his memory, my memory's not so good. Like, something. I don't know. I could have appreciated that a little bit more.
There was that. I felt the opposite. I felt like there was so much repetitive dialogue about Jeremiah being suspect that by the time the big reveal was that he
was suspect, we all knew it.
He was a double agent, that we already knew it. And one of my problems with this episode when we were talking about this was that I felt that there was a complete repetition of the plot line, kind of like an evil villain, says his plot line, and Austin Powers, Dr. Evil says exactly what he's planning on doing. I feel like the first time we hear that, Monel tells you exactly, don't you think it's suspicious? And there's a bomb, and there's this, and, Jeremiah just shows up, and he just tells you exactly the plot of the show.
And then he goes around telling each character the same thing.
And then Wynn finds it out, and then Wynn reiterates it, and then later again, Kara reiterates it.
And then I think Martian Manhunter's like, damn it, Monel was right.
Had a great point, yeah. But all of that, I just felt like the plot was repeated in dialogue by 3 different characters in 3 different scenes. And to me, that right there was really, really dumbing down your audience and really unnecessary. When you have your characters repeating dialogue and repeating the plot all the way to the very end of the episode, I thought that was just really, really bad, like writing-wise. I was like, one of my thoughts was, in this episode, did they not have a group of screenwriters checking and editing and saying, hey, doesn't this seem competitive? Doesn't this seem overly convenient? Doesn't this seem like
we mentioned this like 18 times.
Why are we cutting so quick from one conflict into this resolution? Where I felt like it was unnecessary. That I feel like if you're sitting in a room of screenwriters, those people are there to tell you, hey, Adair, that doesn't, you said that, you're repeating yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know who's in charge of this. The showrunner should be calling you on this. My own teacher, when I write something overly convenient, he calls me on it, and I absolutely go back and pull that out of the dialogue. or the script entirely. So this is a major flaw with this episode, in my opinion.
Jeremiah, I like him, obviously. I lived in Kane. I was just so annoyed with how conveniently evil he was, and it was so obvious that it almost, like, was laughable.
It was laughable.
It was laughable, because it's like, he goes, Jeremiah tells them to keep their guard up because there's a bomb, but, like, he goes, Mon-El's right. You should keep your guard up. Thank you.
Oh
because there's a bomb.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that little tidbit to throw you off. Nobody. Alex is supposed to be one of the baddest motherfucking agents out there. And she don't think it's weird that they can't find no traces of anything.
Right.
That they're being told to go left when clearly it's right. There are no red herrings. It's just a matter of, like, you just aren't doing the work because you're believing this guy who's been gone for 14 years. As a amazing agent, no matter how much you love your family, you know that the closer they are is the more dangerous they are because they know your weaknesses, they know your intel and stuff. So why would you? The last person you should trust is the one who's closest to you, who's been gone for 14 years in custody of the bad guys. I don't get it.
So I just think
Like, how she miss it?
Because of where Mon-El's level is, which is, like, not very high in terms of being, you know, DEO access and what he knows in terms of everyone, since he's an alien who's late to the game. I feel like, here's the thing. We put this episode in Mon-El's POV. So in order for Mon-El to be right over all the other characters, we had to, as a group, dumb down all the characters. People weren't acting like they usually act. You know, like,
True.
Jean lost all his agency as the man in charge. You talked about that.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, I'm sorry. Papa Space Daddy, he's the one who's running the DEO, okay? The fact that nobody found it, important to come to him with any of these concerns, like, hey, Jean, I might not be the number one person to go to. This would be Mon-El speaking. But I'm a little fishy. The fact that y'all didn't know me, and it took me a few months to get ready, and I would feel more comfortable if you really did a good psych eval. Wouldn't it be in our best interest as a DEO, no matter what happened, to vet our friend who has been captured for so long? Even prisoners of war have to go through this. You know what I'm saying?
There'd be a debriefing. And
there'd be a debriefing. There'd be a whole thing so we can get on the same page. Not just like, here's the keys to the city hall.
In order for Mon-El to be right, you had to make all of the characters be completely wrong and out of character.
Pretty much. And then
we get mad at the way the characters are acting.
Exactly.
But that's because the writers are forcing this character who doesn't have this intellect. Usually, he doesn't have this tech information that Wynn would have. I brought that up earlier.
Yeah, and maybe that's what makes him more like
he doesn't have the authority
Wynn.
that Jean has. He doesn't have the power that Kara has, and he doesn't have the experience that Alex has. And all of these people, they do have the return of Jeremiah, and their emotions are a little down, but they've thus far been so competent to the fact that
incompetent.
It's hard for us to believe their incompetency.
Like all of them, all the most amazing agents to take care of alien policy throughout the globes.
They can't separate their personal emotions from their work.
I'm pretty sure that's part of training, right? That would make sense.
Right.
I was so annoyed with Jeremiah and blackmailing Mon-El. Obviously, we're going to find out.
Let's set the scene. The dinner party. That's the scene we're talking about.
The dinner party.
You're annoyed with that situation.
Okay. So the dinner party, fine. Because, like I said, this is a Mon-El unnecessary centric thing. And things I loved the dinner party. I thought it was cute, the whole Maggie, blah, blah, blah.
I think that was the strongest part was, again, Maggie, Florina showing up and getting that interaction. The dad meets Alex's girlfriend, and we get to see this really great scene between Eliza and Jeremiah that felt really rushed because we spent so much time on unnecessary things.
Yeah, well, things about this dinner party that were yay. Obviously, the meeting the girlfriend, that was great. Although I'm still a little weird about the word choice he used, but, some people didn't care, some people did. It was just weird that he was no man in the universe, but it would take a girl like you to, I don't know, it was just weird wording for me. I was like, okay, thanks. Like, thank you. And then he followed it up with like, but your family because you brought tequila. And I was like, well, I can get behind that. You know, if anybody showed up tequila at my house, I'd be like, come on in, you're in the family. I loved Eliza's scene with him. I want more parent Danvers.
Yeah.
Danvers
So
parents.
the exact same thing.
And reason why I think it'd been great to split up this episode, because I think that Eliza would have been one of the first people to kind of realize there's something off about her ex-husband or her husband.
Right. Why wouldn't your wife realize that that's not the man?
Yeah, there'd be, I don't know.
It was her suspicion.
I would have loved to have seen a little bit more scenage where she's like, you know, I can't, and then the way she was like, we're not going to be anything anymore because I don't know you. I was waiting for her to be like, because I'm taken, or I've been dating, or I've moved on in that phase of my life, something. Not just like, no, that's not going to work because you've been gone so long. I would have liked intuition to kind of work for her, and in that scene. I loved, it did feel like, cracked me up, because let's all be honest, Jean is like the real dad. And so when Jean came in, it kind of was like, and Dad's here now, you know, even though Dad's here.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Papa Danvers is kind of like the uncle, and like Jean is like dad. It's kind of weird, but like that's how it felt. Once again, I'm okay with Mon-El in some things, but the writers, come on guys, they gotta make it so that
they forced him into this storyline.
They forced him in the storyline, but they also just were beating it so, like, the horse is dead, the drum is dead, like, can we just stop beating it all at the same time?
Are you saying that you felt like you were having Mon-El?
Well, everything was just, like,
imposed upon you?
A little bit, and it's more like, because I get, we have to have somebody who's all mad and, like, who's the bad guy in this situation, who ends up being right, whatever. I just didn't like the fact that he doesn't have any kind of, okay, let's be honest, he's a prince. He had to have some kind of etiquette training, in general. If you're royalty, that's kind of a universal thing. You get etiquette training. So you should know when to bring up topics at a certain time. What he should have done, and this is going back to the fact that they're giving John's agency away, he should have had the damn dinner, gone to Jean in the morning and was like, I don't feel comfortable. Let's talk about this. Fine. When he told Wynn, and Wynn found the fact that he was hacking into thing, should have gone to John and been like, hey, just let you know, something's a little off, boop, we should talk about it. When they were all discussing the fact that no one can find the bomb, except, like, there should have been briefings. There just should have been. And it really chaps my hide.
Kara and Mon-El are in Kara's room because he's already started an uprising by being suspicious of Jeremiah. They go to Kara's room, and there's some dialogue there where, you know, Kara is suspicious, and, you know, I'm not baseball, you don't get 3 strikes, and, you know, to be with me. And then Dean Cain shows up, and he's like, let me show you out of this house now, young man. And that right there is another example of Kara kind of being in the backseat of her own show, where you have the dad and the boyfriend, and she's the most powerful woman in the world, but he, the dad, who has been out of her life for 14 years, is the one sending the boyfriend out of the room. Like, it was just so chauvinistic-y.
I wouldn't have liked it, but, I mean, even having Manhunter take him out first would have made more sense, or something. But I guess we needed that whole him blackmailing thing, which was stupid.
Well, that little line about where he's like, I know who you are.
Which is like, thanks for adding some more layers of...
I just wrote how, but, like, I'm sure that will become apparent, but I still felt like that was out of the blue. If I were Dean Cain, I'd be like, if you talk to my daughter again, you know, it would be more
something
of a
on the, yes.
Since we're being chauvinist.
Exactly. And it was just kind of like, Kara can show everybody in that whole room out the door with, like, a blow of her lungs. You know what I'm saying? So, like, why must we... I mean, I get it. It's your dad. Oh, it's daddy's taking care of my boyfriend. But it's, like, it was just so condescending in a way.
So, after we have the dinner party scene, and, I mean, the bright parts were absolutely Alex and Maggie. They were wonderful.
100%. It was adorable.
We go into...
Wait, you mentioned... we were saying that Jeremiah is really good at playing sympathy. Like,
oh, yeah. So Jeremiah
has that damn lemon. It's like, oh, with my good hand, I can't grab it.
Jeremiah has this, like, ability to... He has a damaged arm because it's been tampered
Do that
with,
in quotes,
it's been changed, and he's been cyborged. So he's not using his arm, and he uses it to like manipulate everyone. It's terrible. The first time, he uses it, Alex is right there, and he's like, Dad. She's like, Dad, you can't use your arm anymore. He was like, it was damaged beyond repair. When I was saving your sister and Monel. When I saved your sister, it got damaged. They beat me. It was my punishment. I was like, is that necessary, sir? Your arm works good and well.
Like, you don't have to say any of that to your child. You can be like, yeah, I got injured doing my job. Something.
Right.
Because of your sister. And
then for no reason, he's like, cut in the dining scene. He's like cutting a lemon, and it starts at the top of the scene with him and Liza, and he can't cut it because his arm doesn't work. That arm works.
He's like, it's hard to do this one-handed. Why are you trying to cut a lime one-handed? First of all, if we already know your arm doesn't work, you should be like, hey, Liza, can you get this lime for me?
He's overplaying his...
It reminds me of a scary movie where the guy's like, I got these mashed potatoes. No, my God. Hold on to my strong hand. That's what it reminds me of.
Okay. We gotta focus,
sorry, that makes me laugh every time.
So the next scene we have, after Monel makes an ass of himself at the dinner party scene, although I'm glad they drank margaritas. When Monel takes it upon him to go and deal with his man pain at the bar, and in the background there's this sad southerny emo music. Ugh. And Wynn is there with he's there and they're having a beer, and Wynn's like, there's a nuclear bomb, but I got time to have a beer with you. And we just get a lot of man pain. And I want to just make a point of saying this. There are 2 scenes with Wynn and Monel at a bar drinking when there is a nuclear bomb. It just makes me really worry for the DEO and for everyone. There's a nuclear bomb on the loose. You got a time to go and have a couple of beers with your buddy and talk about your lady problems.
Well, I mean, I get it. I'm not so mad about that because there's all kinds of shit going on in this world.
If you knew there was like a nuclear bomb in like New York and the people who are supposed to be looking for it are having a freaking beer, what would you do there?
What if he was doing a search and he was like, this search is going to take all of 3 hours. You're not just going to sit there for 3 hours.
This bomb is going to go off in all of 3 hours.
You're like, I'm going to get me a drink before this bomb goes off.
Screw that. That is just suspension of belief, ma'am. You would be like, find it! And anyone who's drinking in the middle of the day, you would think
just hit it out their hand. You know there's a bomb coming.
On call. Like, he's on call, right? So why is he drinking?
I've done worse.
Anyways. All right. I do like the broiness between Monel and Wynn. That's always a relationship
It's kind of fun. Yeah, because can we just say how many characters on this damn show have any friends?
Like, who they're not sleeping with.
Who they're not sleeping with. Can we get some actual friends to these people? Please.
But it's also...
And let's not kill them off. Let's just have someone they can vent to.
It also serves to my own frustration that, the second time Monel goes to talk to Wynn, it's because Kara is upset with him about his suspicion about Jeremiah, and Wynn basically has to tell Monel, he has this line where he's like, Kara's a badass, and she doesn't need saving. She's a strong, powerful, independent woman. He basically tells her that. And and this is something that Kara has told Monel over and over since their relationship first began. Since they first met each other, she's been telling him, I'm a strong woman, look, punch through a wall. But he himself has just never listened. So it's like a scene where essentially Wynn is mansplaining to Monel that he should give Kara some space to be her own independent woman.
That's something that...
And that's when he starts to listen.
I guess I get their whole idea of, I get it where they're like, okay, we want Monel to finally hear it or ask or whatever. But, it takes another dude...
To tell the dude to not be such a dick to your girlfriend and listen. How is... Okay, I know on this show they touch on a lot of, hot topics. Is this one of them that they're purposely doing that's just infuriating us right now? Are they purposely trying to be like, this is what happens when you have male privilege and they're used to the woman in the kitchen and make me a sandwich and that kind of upbringing
when you have a woman who's progressive and assertive and they don't know how to be men? Like, is that a thing? Like, are they trying to, show us, oh, you can be an alpha male and be with an alpha female and not feel like a damn beta or not feel like your masculinity is taken away from you because you're with a strong woman? I find that it's interesting just dating in life where there are men who won't date certain strong women because they're afraid it's going to take away their masculinity, when in actuality it wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? So maybe that's what they're trying to teach us, but it's very infuriating.
I don't think there's a lesson in it. I just feel like
I'm just hoping there's a lesson in it.
A little bit. I feel like it's a bit tone deaf. It's like there's this. It goes all the way back to the beginning where the reporter's like, Supergirl, feminist hero. But then we have all the rest of the episode where she's basically, maybe she's in the B storyline. She should be making her own discoveries. She should be suspicious. She should be really, this is her story. This is her centric story. But we're getting it through Monel, and we're getting it really kind of
choppy.
Bro-y.
Okay, real quick. What about Win and his girl? How are you feeling about that?
I continue to think that she's bamboozling him. I continue to think that there's something fishy going on. But you know what? That relationship is even moving at a slower pace than Carmel is. At this rate, Carmel will be like going down the aisle
in a week. I actually do. No, I do like them. They're fun. It's nice to see Win happy. Although I'm a little bummed out because, like, one thing that Jen said her gripe was that Win is too competent. Like, everybody knows that if you have any kind of technical anything, you go to Win. Now, I know that his character does tend to be a little bit more brainiac, son of a evil villain genius thing, whatever. I am now understanding that it's because of the lack of writing. Nobody's just writing an episode about Win or Win-centric that doesn't have to do with him liking Kara or a girl.
Or explaining his intelligence.
I would love to know how he became that smart. Maybe I would even like to know if it'd be actually kind of cute to know that maybe Win's whole existence has been around aliens and he didn't know it until he got to the DEO. I think that'd be hilarious. Maybe do a little flashbacky poo of him in school or something where he finally realizes, oh, I've been surrounded by these people my whole life. This is why I'm so comfortable. This is why he's okay with dating an alien. This is why, because he's already been that person without knowing. I would like some Win backstory. We've gotten Jimmy backstory. We've gotten all this, but I want Win when it doesn't involve a girl. Very much like I would love to just get in depth with Kara being Supergirl without having all this, oh, I need a man. Baggage. Yes, she can have a boyfriend. For those of you who are like, you want her to be alone. No, I want the show to be Supergirl again. And they even pitched the show as Supergirl and her sister and the adventures that happened. That's how they pitched it, guys. So I want to see more of that. I miss the alien interaction and the fighting and the real, guts to glory thing. Anyways, that's besides the point, but it just annoys me.
I feel like I agree. We talked about this. I'll go into it briefly. I agree with you. This show is going from A to C to the end of the show without solution, without transition. Their transitions and their cuts are way too quick. It's with dialogue. It's with
they're rushing
editing.
Everything.
They're rushing. We only see the problem and the solution. We don't see the in-between, the journey. We're missing the development. And the way they're using this character, Win, is he's the overly competent tech guy who just pulls solutions out of his ass every episode. And it's getting exhausting because Supergirl, no one doesn't come up with a solution. Or maybe it's slightly suggested. A solution is slightly suggested by Jean, but those are the two sources in which all our conflicts are being resolved. And it's also translating that way, it's also reading that way with the emotional content as well. Like, one of the biggest problems I had with the episode was when Alex gets upset with Kara for being suspect of Jeremiah, and she's like, I can't believe this, especially coming from you. And then in the next scene, we see Kara going to right away confront Alex about her feelings. We don't see any of that in between time where Alex's feelings grow and grow and grow. We just see Kara going to have that resolution and have that dialogue with her sister. And I just felt like that was so rushed, and we get this rushness because we're getting this story, this story that should have been in the promo as A story is actually B story.
Okay, now, you brought her up, so what about Alex for you?
I think we've talked about a lot of negative stuff that were really bothered us about this episode.
Especially this episode.
I want to say specifically this episode, I really haven't had these kind of problems in other episodes. This was just, to me, I'm surprised. But this episode, the meat and potatoes, the core of this episode, the only thing saving it is, to me, the actress's Kyler Lee is her performance. She's given so little time to develop, and all of her emotional stuff is given so little credence, that she really acts her face off with everyone, with Maggie, with Dean Cain, with Kara.
You always feel
her
what
feelings.
Alex is going through.
And, that right there is the actress being given, like, oh, hey, I'm going to have this brief transition, but I'm going to make it work. And she makes it work. And it's her conflict that really is the driving factor of this whole episode. If it's her conflict, if this is something I had asked myself halfway through the episode, as I started to realize, I was like, oh my God, this is actually Alex's story entirely. Her biggest hang-up, her biggest unresolved thing in her life is her father. And we're getting it through Monel. And she has a couple of really intense digs at her sister where she's like, you're listening, you're in your honeymoon phase, and you're listening to everything he says. You're following his lead and his perspective. Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
She's like, you sound just like him. Honeymoon phase. You don't have to take his side all the time. And this is what Alex says to Kara about Kara taking Monel's advice that Jeremiah is suspicious. And, she goes right for the kill with Kara. There is no in between.
The hardest...
And that is just, it's brief.
The hardest scene, I think, that she, like, jab and verbal thing that she hit Kara with, and I had talked about this in the promo, was that idea of being adopted. And she just goes, he's my father. And Kara goes, yeah, he's mine too. She goes, well, act like it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Alex, yes, is her sister, but there's still that part of Alex that is like, you adopted this girl. I didn't want her. I embraced her. I took her in as my sister, but she's still not family, even though she is. And I know that sounds harsh because obviously they have one of the best bonds in the show, but this rift, the fact that a lot of people on the internet were talking about, oh, they didn't make up. Oh, I'm so worried for them. Oh, they didn't make up. Yeah. That's the bond that we want to see. We don't want to see it broken, but for good storytelling, that's the relationship out of all relationships that we want to see kind of severed because it is so traumatic. And that's what's going to change those two characters forever. If they lose any part of trust or whatever, and the fact that Alex isn't necessarily stubborn, but she's kind of stubborn, she turns into a child when her father's around. Mm-hmm. The mention of her father makes her regress all the way back. Already having to come out and deal with her romantic side, she's kind of had to regress backwards, which, in a good way, but, she still had to go there. She's like, I feel like a kid again. Okay. And now dealing with her father, she still feels like a kid again, and she doesn't want him to go again. She doesn't want him to leave.
Right.
She wants to catch him up on her life. And so I get where she's coming from, but there's also that anger that she never resolved from being left, from being given a sister she didn't ask for, from being the one in charge of the sister she didn't ask for, her whole life. She has that weight on her shoulders, she said in a previous episode.
She sacrificed for Kara.
She sacrificed for Kara, who isn't her blood technically. And so when her blood does show up and Kara doesn't necessarily have his back, she is like, but what is this?
All of this is lost because we get it through.
It is lost.
We get it through
another character's point of view,
and it's lost. And it shouldn't have been. This is why
my number one focus
should have been his episode to tell. This is not his story to tell. But I felt like the best performances were from Alex. I felt like Alex was missing from this story, and it was about her. I felt like Alex, and I felt Kara. Where was she? I felt like she was so background in this whole episode, missing from her own story. I love Jeremiah, and I really thought that the scenes between Jeremiah and Lillian Luther was so fascinating. I want to know all about what they have been getting up to in the last 14 years, where they've been plotting, scheming. When did he make this transition to her side?
And
I kind of ship it to it's hot. No, but really it is.
Evil Corp or whatever.
Dan Corp, whatever.
Dad Corp.
Dad Corp. Oh,
hashtag Dad Corp.
All Danvers, like the Luther.
Dad Corp.
So there was just no beats, no breaths, and lots of rough, choppy, transitional stuff in this episode. One of the parts where I just rolled my eyes, where it got to be ridiculous, was really when Wynn plants a tracker onto Jeremiah. So wait, the moment before we have is, Jeremiah gets his access pass, and he automatically... He
lines it to do something bad.
Goes into the mainframe, steals all the information, and then conveniently, that's the word of this episode. Convenience. Thank you, Monel. Wynn happens to be right there and sees everything. And then conveniently, later on, Jeremiah beats the crap out of Wynn, and Wynn happens to put a tracker on him. And I thought that was an example of this character being too competent, the only solution the show has to any of its conflicts, and it was ridiculous.
Actually, I have to also mention something that I kind of have to give a shout out to. I liked Cyber Dad's arm because, let's be honest, it was a gajillion times cooler than Metallo's chest piece.
Yeah.
Let's just talk
Maybe
about that for a minute.
Maybe because we didn't see the full arm, it was just
of the
metal.
Well, no, it was just the metal, very Terminator, which I really kind of liked.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the fact that there was some of the blood coming out from where the skin was. The synthetic skin. I liked that. I liked the framework that was around it because it dissolved. Well, it was really cool. It was a very slight transition where we saw the arm really in focus, and then we saw Jean kind of in the background blurred and kind of frosted almost. And then when his realization of the arm happens, it was a nice transition where Jean becomes in focus and the arm now is, blurred and everything like that. And I just thought it was really cool. Also, well, we all know he's not fully cybernetic because it's just the arm. Like, his arm was bulletproof and all the other stuff. And then the fact that he cold-cocked the Manhunter, that's crazy. Who does that? I mean, really, like, that's...
Right.
And I didn't understand why he didn't...
Is he,
well, I didn't understand why he didn't phase, by the way. Like, Manhunter, he could have phased away from the arm like he did when he was being held down by Daddy Danvers, but...
I also thought
I the fight. It was cool.
The John Dean Cain scene, I really enjoyed, where, like, we get a little backstory that they're actually really great friends, and, thank you for taking care of things, and this DEO. I love that, and again, more characters I would love to know more about. But let's get through this to the end. So our finale of superheroing is with Kara and the train.
No, well, I was going to talk about Alex a little bit more.
I would love to talk about Alex because I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to the train. Okay, my first question to everybody: why are there only 2 people in the forest trying to chase these people?
All right.
Like, why is it just Alex and Kara?
And how do they arrive?
How did they get there that quickly? I know the tracker, all of the stuff that Wynn put on.
That was ridiculous. Another point. How is Wynn able to track Kara's heat? I want to say residual radiation from her heat wave vision. That is overly competent and overly convenient. The fact that he's like, let me just do this real quick. Ping, my search came up. No.
I just want to know how they got to the forest. Why were there only 2 people in the forest when there's clearly more assailants? Why didn't we take a team? Why didn't we take a group of people? I don't really get that.
It's just starting to feel like nobody else works at the DEO. We don't even have extras. We don't even need extras.
Yeah.
It's just like Wynn does all the work.
You know what's funny? Actually, the only time you see other working extras is when Maggie's around as a cop.
Right.
They'll be like her group of people.
But Wynn is sitting at his desk doing all of everyone's work. They don't need an HR. They just need Wynn. And then
why didn't Manhunter go? I mean, yeah, he's like a little bit injured or whatever, but he could have still gone to like... He's just as pissed because he got his ass handed to him just a minute ago. I'd be on that field real quick. But, like, my thing is, I love the scene. I liked it. I liked it because Kyler was amazing. I liked that it wasn't an agent who's a badass on the field. It was this child being ever manipulated by her father. She just wanted to know why. Why would you turn on me? The one person in her whole life, her father, gone for 14 years, is the only person that Alex has truly ever trusted. Ever. I would say over her mom because they had a lot of issues, growing up and stuff like that. I'd even say Kara, because still there's that idea of that she's not really my sister, but she's my sister. Her father is her number one. And the fact that that number one person just betrayed her is going to ruin Alex. You guys are hearing it from me. I think that this is going to be not a downfall of Alex, but this is going to take her into the end of the season, possibly season, with a very dark part of her, which I think is also going to kind of ruin a little bit of her and Maggie. And maybe not ruin, but
I actually saw it ruining her and Maggie as well.
I think that after a while, it's going to be hard for the trust like that to have been broken. And so she's going to be very distrustful of a lot of people, which I think is going to possibly ruin a little bit of the Sanvers, but also make them stronger, because I have a feeling they will have to work through it.
I think that's absolutely going to affect her personal life in a very strong way. I absolutely saw it being set up as there being something that Maggie can't touch in Alex. Something that Maggie can't fix in Alex, and Alex being the first person to shut Maggie out, which in the past it's been the other way around. Yeah. I got that from that scene. I mean, as well. Yeah, I think the scene after, actually.
I mean, I think it's also going to hurt, her and Kara's relationship in general, because there's going to be it's going to be hard for Alex because she was wrong, ultimately. She let her emotions get in the way.
But I felt like this episode.
But she wasn't wrong for having emotions.
Was meant to be an episode that was transitional between setting up the next episode, which is a big episode, and you could have set Alex up so much better. And I feel like they didn't really set her up for success.
Oh no! And then that was the thing. People were like, "Oh my God, they didn't apologize to each other. They didn't talk. Normally they talk it out and they don't go, home angry with each other."
But they didn't set up, in my opinion, Alex's turn to the dark side.
No. I don't think Alex is gonna turn to the dark side. I don't think
so either. But I think they are going to set up a rift, and I feel like that's what they wanted to. That's what they were selling us. And again, we said it. They didn't sell the rift enough.
They didn't sell the rift enough. And yes, I see it coming, but it's not going to be a long-lasting thing. I doubt. Because this season 2 is supposed to be the emotional, the relationship, build everybody's relationship up. And then the third season is going to be the bring down, which is going to make everybody become who they truly are. Whether it becomes Supergirl's going to really isolate herself and be Supergirl, or Alex is going to kind of also get a little bit cold and jaded. But I saw that that's where this is going. But once again, with Jeremiah being so good at manipulation, the idea of having your daughter, you go ahead and shoot me. That's the only way you're going to bring me in. And then to be like, you're the best part of me. Now, is that the part that would have shot you? Or right. Or is that the part that, was loving
sending
and
signals to
and, poor child Alex in the forest, alone. Once again, why were there no other agents? Because I think this would have been it
was Alex's showdown to have, but it was also just the execution of it. We question it. Let's talk about the last 2 scenes, and I think this is really important because it shows. You talked about it earlier, Alex and Maggie, how Alex deals with her conflict with alcohol, and then we see Manel and Kara. What were your thoughts on the last 2 scenes?
I loved the Sanvers scene because it was the one scene that nobody really had to write any dialogue for, and it was the most effective. Maggie, she's drinking her booze, which I actually kind of
Alex is drinking her booze.
Yeah, Alex is drinking her booze, sorry. And I think that that's going to end up being something eventually.
I think so, too. I think Alex using booze as a crutch has become kind of a trend with her.
At first I was like, ha, 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 oh, okay, get it. But then I'm like, that's going to be something harsher later. And maybe...
It's going to touch on the fact that that's an area that Maggie has a difficult time reaching in her.
Or who knows, maybe she's going to help her not have to mask, because when you're drinking a lot, it tends to mask your feelings and it tends to numb everything. And because Alex is so used to bogging down her feelings and then moving on, maybe the booze is what also helps her pack it down and then move on, because she needs to be broken. Alex did get broken, and I saw it in this scene. And I think that that's going to be something they're going to work on together as a couple. But I thought it was beautiful that she goes, come on in, or whatever, hey, open the door. And Maggie comes in and just goes, how was your dad's first day at work? And then you kind of go, oh, crap. she hasn't called she hasn't called Maggie all day. She doesn't know what's going on. Kyler says 0. She just drinks the rest of her drink. Is like, ooh, that bad. Okay. Ha ha ha, a little light. And then when she goes for the second one, Maggie's like, oh, okay, wait, what's going on? And then she's not forceful. She just goes, what happened? And then it was a beautiful gesture because you very rarely see this. And it not be cheesy. She takes her by the chin and looks at her eye and goes, what happened? And just that openness and just that true caring makes Kyler burst into tears. And then she just goes, oh, sweetie, wraps around her, and then just lets her cry. Now, the reason why I love this scene, and I like a lot of the Sandra scene, is because it parallels what should be happening in a relationship. That is the appropriate action to take in a relationship in that moment. Then we instantly cut to Mon-El knocking on the door to Kara, trying to do the same thing, but doing the less mature version of it, where it's knock, 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 come in. Okay, I'm not going to say I told you so, even though he kind of walks in like, I told you so. And he's like, is there anything I can do? I won't talk. ... Followed by, is there anything else I can do? It's like, how about not talk? How about just go over there and give her a hug? Like Maggie asked a few times, hey, what's up? Because she just didn't know. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Didn't really poke and prod. She was just like, oh no. And she got it because she was watching. She was being unselfish, and she was making sure her partner was okay. Mon-El was more like, am I in trouble?
I just wrote not enough chemistry. Not enough chemistry. It is so hard to watch the Alec Maggie scene be as brilliant as it is, and then to have a scene juxtaposed right after it that is essentially doing the exact same thing. They want the same thing, same outcome, comfort, but when you have the actresses, Alex and Maggie, Kyler and Floriana working off each other, and they have this just gorgeous, wordless chemistry, and in this organic scene and outburst of emotion, and then the very next scene, you have
Melissa and Chris doing the same thing.
You really do kind of compare the actors to each other, and I felt that one was organic and beautiful, and the other one felt like a scene in an acting class that felt kind of forced and weird and on a couch, and she's lying down.
Melissa does a great execution every time. She really is giving so much of herself when she's in these emotional states, but it's like the way they wrote the character, because I'm not going to blame the actor at all. He's on a TV show, we're not, you know what I'm saying? But it has to be the writing that makes him so sterile.
I'm gonna say half and half, because you can have sterile writing and have a great actor. You have that a lot of the time with this show.
Dean Cain and
Brenda Strong working with playing a flat, evil, static character. Yeah. But I think there's a point where you're supposed to lift it. I mean, look at Katie McGrath. She lifts everything she says to the next level, and that's all acting. We don't ask for a lip bite; she gives it to us. But I feel like this guy, to me, really,
he's lacking.
Felt outside of the scene, and I felt like his lines, they're cheesy. Everyone has cheesy lines, but like his delivery and his inflection to me feels like just for you as an actor. Have you ever been in a scene and then you realize you're not really in the scene because you're thinking about what you're going to say next? Like, I feel like he's out of the scene and he's thinking about
he's not being present. Next. That's the thing. With Kyler and Floriana, they are present. With Melissa, she is present. You can tell she is there at that moment with him needing comfort. And that actor or that character, I don't feel like he's ever there at that moment.
He was present in the last episode more so. In Mr. and Miss I felt like he had a stronger performance that entire episode. But there are just times where I feel like, when you're working on a set and your scenes just pick up at a certain point with the camera and they cut it and they stop it and they go it and you do it a bunch of times. Yeah. I feel like it's really easy to fall in and out of what you're doing. Some people are good at jumping back in and some people need a second to get back into it. So maybe they were present a couple of edits ago, but that one didn't make it.
I would say Yeah.
They're so
not present.
vanilla, not present. I don't feel him growing in the scene. I don't feel him alive in the scene. So I feel like it's making it hard for me to believe this relationship.
And I know a lot of people they might think, oh no, he's doing a great, because he does
comedy well.
He does comedy well. Has that bubbly light feel that.
The caring part.
Honestly, it is the emotional, caring depth part that he tends to not be as present for. Like, even at the end, I would give him the very end, where he's like, what do we do? She goes, we get up. And that's her determination. And he was like, yeah, we do. Like, he was actually kind of propelled by her determination and grit. Like, yeah, let's get up.
Yeah.
Like, got it. You know.
But I felt like that right there was a great example of, yeah, we do. You could have said that. He made it a joke. He's like, yeah, he was excited. You know, not a joke, but he was excited about it.
He was pumped.
But if you're Jean, you could be like, yeah, we do. And then I'm like, oh my God, I got chills.
Well, I mean, it's still like that idea,
Ask John to do it.
But I believe that. He's like, okay, yeah, that's what we do next, because I'm allowing.
See, I didn't believe it. I thought he was going to pull her back into bed and be like, sleep some more.
No. I believe that. That moment I believe. I also believed him when he was like, does nobody else think that this is weird? Because that is an organic reaction that character would have.
I felt like it was one of those things, like,
it's stupid,
where the writers almost like write their own commentary into the dialogue, like in the last episode again, where he's like, Mr. Spitlick is like tall, dark, and handsome, and that's almost like some commentary that comes from the fourth wall to break it. I thought Monel was that fourth wall, that writer room, that audience telling, hey, this is really predictable. And I felt like that's the dialogue I got from him in that moment. I didn't feel like that was organically from what he would have thought, because I just feel like you've shown me the silly guy who is not quite cultured in the ways of the
maybe
earth.
the thing with we haven't really gotten his real backstory yet. Like, we know Alex.
We haven't gotten his
We're getting a little bit of Floriana, but Maggie, but it's almost like they don't know how to write his personality correct.
And so
it's like always coming off weird. Like, there's just, he's the fun guy and the bro. We got that, but that's all surfacey. What else is Monel about? And we have gotten nothing. Like, if you think of it as a jar, it's like the first layer is filled, the middle just empty.
I think that they give us, like, funny guy, and then they give us, like, romantic comedy, charming guy.
Like, rom-com guy,
and funny guy. But that's all, like...
But no, like, depth.
No depth,
No deep emotion. No, like, I mean, Jean has lost his family in a damn, Holocaust.
Megan, oh my God.
Alex done come out of the woodworks in general.
Yeah.
Freaking Maggie's a cop who had to work her way. She started from the bottom, now she's here.
Wow.
Like, Lena's like, she started from the bottom, now she's here.
Oh my God, I'm a Luther.
Yeah, and she's like, now I'm an actual Luther.
Right.
Shit. Carver's like, my family blew up in space and I'm a damn adult.
But he's a Daxon prince and his father's an asshole. But other than that, like... But we've not seen...
Got put on a ship and sent out here. And
and maybe we're waiting for that Terry Hatcher, Kevin Sorbo moment. But
maybe. Spoiler alert. Terry Hatcher and Kevin Sorbo playing his father.
My last thought on the last scene was the music. I have always brought up the sound editing, and I really wanted to bring up...
Kudos always to the sound engineer.
Not in this last scene. With the scene... So we have this beautiful Maggie Alex scene where this emotional spring happens.
But then what is it? Time after time?
No.
I want to dance with somebody.
I want to dance with somebody. So then we get this Monel. It's like different the way they try and up Monel's emotional stakes is by playing a sappy cover song in the last 2 episodes to get us to really invest in him. But you know what? I didn't need any background music like that to invest in the Maggie and Alex scene because I believed it. But I felt like, tell me, I want to dance with somebody was so freaking the wrong choice to put in the background.
Weird.
It's because it's about them connecting as a couple, but the episode again is about what Kara's lost in her relationship with her father and her divide with her sister. Yeah. It's just, again, that music, it didn't hit home, and it sent the wrong punctuation mark at the end of the sentence of a very long episode that we had a lot of things to talk about.
So what would you rate this kind of like?
So this is a question that you have. What would we rate it? But I also want to ask the audience this. If you had to give this an A, B, C, D, a school grade, what would you give it? So what's your school grade for this episode?
This would have been a C.
A C? I gave it a C minus. So this episode, Homecoming, is a C minus. Now, just because we haven't done this before, real quick, what would you give Mr. and Mrs. Spitalik?
I would have given that more like a B because it's entertaining.
Yeah.
It was entertaining, but it wasn't like, woo.
Absolutely.
Like, as we say, it didn't make you grab your ankles, and it didn't make me clutch my pearls.
Okay. What would you give Luther's? That was our first recap.
I liked Luther's a lot. I would have given that like an A. B plus A.
Squeeze my ankles and clutch
my pearls, yeah.
I gave that probably like a B plus to an A minus because I always think there's room for improvement.
Truth.
Yes.
Truth on that. Guys, there's a few more questions I had out there for you. Start giving us some feedback and let us know what you're thinking about a lot of things on this lovely podcast. Kind of like this question. This is a big thing, and I'll ask you, Jen,
Okay.
but also, guys, comment back. Do you think that Alex will have to kill Jeremiah? Or do you think Kara will kill Jeremiah, paralleling when Alex killed Astra in season 1? Because out of all the drama that they have, I feel like that's almost a full circle because Alex, being the adopted sister, or her adopted sister, killed her aunt. Could you imagine Kara killing her adopted father? Even if he's being bad or putting somebody in harm.
I think inadvertently, I could definitely see a death of Jeremiah, but I also think, as much as it'd be an interesting thing you have to ask, will it push the story? Does it give purpose to the story? I think it would be interesting to see Kara kill Jeremiah just to see how that would further drive the sisters apart.
Or maybe even to save her.
Right, but I also think, here's the other question to that, the other side of the coin is, what happens if he survives? One thing I always say to you is that this show has a great cabinet of villains. He survives and he's evil. And then you have so many options. It's like having more colors to play with, So if he survives and he's just something that, they fight about and that they have to overcome together, or what can you use Jeremiah? Is he more useful alive or dead? That's the question.
True.
And how would he push the purpose? Now, I think an example of, when I think of a useful character dead, I hate to say it, but I think Jimmy, because he affects both her work life and her superheroing life.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can push that story in two directions. But I think that Jeremiah, he could be just as valuable, dead or alive. And in fact, I would love to see him, Dean Cain, be a villain with Terry Hatcher. Bam! Supergirl's overwhelmed by her enemies, and Lena comes to White Knight her out of the woods.
Well, all right. So that's what we got, guys. That is the questions that we have.
That is my own fan fiction I'm writing in my brain.
You're good to wrap up. So thank you guys for listening to our lovely cast. That was Homecoming 214. We're going to have some time on our hands because a lot of the TV shows that we like are not on right now. It is the winter break. So we will be doing in those intermediate times recaps of old movies. Next will be, was it Batman Forever? Batman Forever. Batman Returns.
No, I thought we were going to do Legion.
Oh, well, we will. We will do Legion.
If you have a show you would like us to recap, feel free to leave us a comment and we will.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I'm really trying to do Legion. I think it's a really cool show. So we'll get to you guys on that. So thank you once again for listening. My name is Adair.
This is Jen.
And we'd like to hear your comments and, feel free to ask us, what about that? Have a good one, guys. See you around.